Welcome back. In this lecture, we're going to build on what we learned in the last lecture. We added our calories field to our product.template model, and we just, to test it out, to show and prove it's in there, we added it manually through our debug mode to this form view. So it's just like prototyping it, making sure that our model is right. So we know that calories is now in our model. I can take it back out of this view because we don't want it in there through the debug mode anymore. That's the whole purpose of building our application. So it's gone from there now. And let's say, we probably want to add calories here to our tree view, right? So let's quickly look at what we did. We added, this is all the code we have to add the calories field to our product template model. So now we have that field available. We proved it by showing it in the view. So now we want to create a view to update this tree view, but not do it manually. I'll give that to you as an exercise. Try, as an exercise, going in and adding this calories field to this tree view, using what you know about the debug mode. And I'm not even going to show you that in the video because you've seen me do it just previously in the form view. So you could add that field to your tree view through debug mode, but now we want to see how do you do that through code. Well, ironically, one of the things that helps us a little bit is that we can look at other views and we can see, how do you, what is your ID, and makes it easier for us to inherit and pull from that view. So, for example, I can go here under our debug view and look at our edit tree view, and you'll notice that here's this external ID comes up, and we have product.product_template tree view. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, possibly, as a developer. I've worked with Odoo enough to know, but even if you don't know what this means, all you need to know is that that's what this view's internal, they call it external ID. I would almost call it the opposite. It's really the internal ID. It's the ID that ties this view to the Odoo framework. If you're going to refer to this view, this is how you want to refer to it. So that takes me to our next step of building a view from scratch. And I am going to do this one from scratch. Typically, you're going to copy and paste these views. We're going to be giving you, the source code to this, so you can copy and paste this so you don't have to type it. But I am going to walk through this first one, and I'll copy and paste bits and pieces, possibly, just so I don't have to type the whole thing. But views have a structure, and you can see this one right here. Notice we have this XML version at the top. We have a tree string equals product, so we have a way to say that we're starting with a tree, and then we have the fields named here out. And let me see if I can just arrow down from here. All the fields and then an ends tree. But this architecture is kind of a subset. You can't think of it as the whole thing because it's already got up here at the top. It knows the view name, it knows the type and object. So this as well has to be represented in the overall structure for a tree view. This will make more sense when you see what we type out in our code. So this is the Python file. We're going to get out of it. And we need to create another file now for our view. And so this is going to be nano diet facts. And we'll keep it simple, view. And you'll notice when we look through the Odoo framework a little bit more and see how they build their apps, that it's pretty common to name your main view the name of your model and then view. So like sale_view.xml, and that's the ending part, I would know goes with the sale model. And we'll see that it just helps with having some naming convention. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to paste in what we saw was, is the common XML header. So I'm going to paste this in, and this is available for you to paste in. Again, this is just common syntax. If you're new to XML, don't let it freak you out. Just paste it in and say this is just something that identifies this document in such a way that the Odoo framework's going to know how to handle it. And right along with that is another tag, and these are called tags. And since this is really our first XML document we're creating from scratch, what you want to learn is if there's an opening tag, there's always an ending tag. So I can come down here and know that I need to have an ending tag. So this opening tag, OpenERP, allows the Odoo framework to know, hey, we're talking about something that maybe interests me. This is possibly important. And then there's another tag set that's just part of it that says, here's where the data is inside of it. And so it's always like this. This is like right now, you can snapshot this in your brain. This is kind of the main structure for any view file in Odoo that's going to hold a view. And these views you've been working with already. You've been adding fields to views in forms. You've been adding fields to views in trees. You've seen them all throughout Odoo. This is just the syntax for telling Odoo that what's between this data, these two data tags, could possibly be views. It can be other things. It can be actions. It can be menus. It can be anything that has a visual component, and specifically menus and views and search views and actions. Those kind of things are part of what goes in between these data tags. But for our purposes, we're just going to try and extend that tree view with calories. We're going to add calories to it. So every one of these has what's called a record entry. And so I'm going to copy and paste this record entry so I don't have to type it out, and so we can just talk about it. And what this is that you'll notice that the ID is product template tree view. So I'm having this ID that's basically a tree, view, and I can actually put diet facts in here, I believe, too. I don't need it to be identical. So this just gives me a record ID for this. And like I had said with these other tags, notice how I end them. And by ending them, it's this front slash that goes in. So we have an OpenERP up here. We close it off down here. We have a data here. It's up here. Is the matching. Record starts here, record ends here. And now this is where everything goes in here that tells us how to find and then manipulate this tree view. So the finding part uses some of the same idea as what we learned in our model. We have inherit ID. And so this inherit ID, that's just what it says. Which view do we want to inherit from? And that's where that external ID that we have up here becomes vital. Because otherwise, it's like, how am I going to find it? Here it is, right here. There's no confusion. It's not hard. I just have to go there and paste it in and end this off. Just like that. And then end our tag. This is a way to end a tag when you don't need to have a complete closing tag. It'll make more sense later, but just know that makes this complete. This is the field. Name is inherit ID. Tells us that we want to inherit from this from another view, and then this is the view we want to inherit from. And it's not hard to find out what that should be because we got it right here. So far, so simple. I mean, the syntax can be confusing, but trust me when I say that it's more confusing if you don't learn how to copy and paste these things and know where to go to find them, because so much of it's just finding the right information. Okay, so now let's see what are some of the other things we need to have in here. We also need to have a model. So we don't know what model this goes with yet. We're just saying it wants to inherit, but Odoo wants a little bit more information, and so I'm going to paste it in. We have to make it look a little better. Yeah. Model. So it has a little bit different syntax, but it's the same idea. We have field name equals model, so that this is just a way so that Odoo knows what we're talking about. So it finds the model right here, just like is when we specify the model in here. They call it object here, product template. Here's our product template. So this is really, and in fact, when I mouse over it, notice how it says field model in the black right there. It's the model that we're actually pulling that right out of here to plug it in here. Or at least in this case, we're inheriting, and it needs to know what field we're talking about. Notice how I don't have to have the field tags end on another line. I could, like it could go like this, but we don't need it to. In fact, yeah, we don't want it to. It looks better that way. Okay, so now we have what is the actual architecture for the XML that we're used to seeing here. And you'll even notice right here it says architecture. So this is your key. This should help you as a developer to understand this. When you see this architecture, this is what Odoo's talking about that's going to go inside of here. Well, how do we know that? We can take and copy in this syntax. And again, it kind of got this part not the way I wanted it, but this name equals arch, type equals XML. Think of this as almost, it is, in fact, what gets extrapolated out into here. So all this in this part is basically the information at the top that's describing the view, and then the architecture is down here. That gets down into what are the details. And in the tree, you can see it has all these fields that get added. Well, remember how before, if you wanted to go back to the section where we looked at how in the form view, and we're going to go take a peek just so we're all on the same page here. Notice how in the form view, when we look at it, and we edit it here, we looked at this type position after, and we saw how when I had the type position before, and then we listed out calories, that the calories would show up before the type. Well, we can do the same thing in our code. So let's go back to here, and in our tree view, which we want to go back to the tree view here. We have different things. We might want it after the default code here in our internal category. So let's plan on dropping it after. We'll put the calories right after this. And let's look at our tree view real quick. And we'll see that there's a default code in there. I thought there would be. Huh. Category ID. Oh, it's internal category, not, I was thinking it was internal reference. My apologies, that's internal category. So we can still put it after internal category. After internal category is the category ID. We see it right here. So that's the field name. If we want it after this one, what do we need to do? So I'm going to paste that in there. Remember, I have it in my keyboard. That we don't want to do it after the field name type. We want to position it after the field name category ID. So this is telling us where we want to position our fields. And I can put an ending field here. And we could list as many fields as we want. We've only got one we want to do. I think you know what it is. And that is our first view update, where we're going to add calories after category IDs in this tree view. Now, it's a lot to take in. If you're new to developing, you're new to Odoo development, you're new to Python, new to XML, this is something you will have to watch more than one time. It's not rocket science. It's basically copying and pasting. You've now got a template here and filling in the blanks. In other words, what model are you working with? What view are you inheriting from? And then what field do you want to add? And in this case, we're saying find category ID from here, position after it, put our calories. So let's write this out and hit enter. Now, there's one more thing that's part of this, is that we've got to add this to our OpenERP list of files. So in other words, right now, if we save this and go out, and we look at our directory, our framework, our application doesn't know that this exists. So we have to update our OpenERP file so that we know what that is and it can identify this file. So we say nano OpenERP.py, and we're going to come down here and add another entry, and it's going to be called data. And so we can specify here additional files that are going to be expected. And so I want to make sure I get this right the first time. We type in diet facts view.xml. And so this tells Odoo to look for this file. We write it out, and now when we Control C and run this again, it's going to update this module, and we're going to be watching for errors. Anything that I might have done that might have caused one of our views to break or cause a problem. So you can see here, loading diet facts view.xml. So I can tell here that we did, in fact, get the view. So let's go back here to products. We'll click on it, go to the tree view, and there's our calories showing up in our tree view. So we've been successful. We've got our view with calories based upon what we added here in our module, this nano diet facts view.xml. So can we test it? Just one real quick test. Go and say let's have it before the category ID. So we just shift that out, save it. We can see here that it's after it. Now it should go before it. Rerun it and shift refresh, and we'll see the calorie flip back before the internal category. There it is. So that wraps this lecture up. Look forward to seeing you in the next lecture.